Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So today we have the first of the spike factories, and we're going to be looking at the top path, which has the spiked mines and the spiked balls, and unfortunately the super mines is not going to be joining us today. So the spiked balls are good in the mid game and late game as for cleanup, and the spiked mines do more so of a mid game carry and then a late game cleanup. And sadly, the super mines is just a little bit too expensive. So looking at the stats, the spiked balls is kind of interesting because it has gotten a lot of nerfs, especially to the Pierce. It's still, I guess, a pretty decent tower, but most of the time when I'm going for like a spiked ball, I'll just go all the way into spiked mines because this guy's actually pretty strong. And unlike some other mid-game carry towers, this guy does a lot in the late game. He's really good with super ceramics and kind of spike balls too. Spike balls does better against super ceramics instead of like mid-game ones, so he'll do a bit there too. The cross paths, you're going to be getting X2O generally, so just like 320, 420, but on some specific maps, the smart spikes is actually really good. It does give some more benefits like that increased starting round bonus and longer lifespan, but generally if it's just like a single lane map at the back, I go for 320 or 420, but the 402 is not bad either. Then for the bus, you just give it one Berserker Brew, and that's really it. The Berserker Brew will make it a lot better, like way better, but you don't really want to get too fancy and go out of the way. It's just going to be doing some good cleanup with just that one Berserker Brew. And when it comes to the placements of the maps for this spike factory, you're going to want it way at the end of the track. It will just sit there and be doing a bunch of good cleanup, and it's really good. Nice to have in action. And then for other maps, you're going to want just the smart spikes, like on Ravine famously you can get the like 2 spike factories, and then at one side it will be going on one lane, and then for the other they swap over and attack the other side, which is really nice and really powerful. So now when it comes to the heroes, as just a cleanup hero, whatever strategy you need cleanup for, it will go. So it isn't really hero specific, not one that's just going to be like necessarily great with spike mines, so you could just do whatever your base strategy is as for your hero. So now looking at some pros and cons. The pros is that it's amazing cleanup, strong mid-game carry, good in the mid and late game, and the cons is that the tier 3 has gotten many nerfs, so it's not as good as it used to be, and it's a lot worse on some maps where you can't have that smart spikes necessarily doing much. So the objectives we're going to be looking at is spines mid-game carry, spalls mid-game, the spines late game, and the spikes on multi-lane paths, because there is some more to it than just smart spikes, and we'll explore that later too. So now for this strategy, I'm just going to be going with Soda, and we'll get a spike factor down early game. This isn't necessarily just to the top path, but spike factories in the early game can actually do quite a lot just to like start things out. On some maps you can put it back and it's going to be doing very well, especially if you just have like your hero pushing through everything, and your hero might not get everything, and the spikes will be able to clean up, and we'll go like this for a good while, especially you just get 100 and you're going to be chilling. So we're going to have that up there. I'm just going to outbuff the Soda, outbuff that spike factory, and you can go into like a tier 3 spike for the early game. It doesn't really always work, but sometimes it actually can work out pretty well, especially if you have a hero that's doing a good amount of damage like Soda. So I'm going to do that, but for the strategy I decided after I got spiked mines what I was going to do, but if I had known that I was going for the Sentry Champion earlier, I probably would have gotten like that, just a 300 or something, 310 engineer just to kind of help out, so that would help out a bit. But the spike factory can do quite a lot too, and then you're definitely going to want to outbuff that at some point because it's going to make it a lot stronger, and the spike balls will be able to do pretty well. With the pineapple skin, it's just going to be shooting out pineapples, which is kind of funny, but normally it would be the spike balls.
anyways. We're just going to outbuff that, and that's going to take out around 40 pretty well. I'm going to use that sawed ability just to make sure I get everything, so that's going to be nice, but it's going to do very well. And I'm also on top of that going to be able to literally just go straight for the spike mines afterwards. So spike balls, as I mentioned, it used to be a lot stronger. After some nerfs, it's alright, I guess, but the spike mines is really strong, and it does great with cleanup, especially with Bloons. It can do a lot of damage, especially with the alch buff, more damage to like Moabs and ceramics, and then it explodes at the end, which is a lot of AoE to Bloons. So like round 63 will just get annihilated by a spike mines, for example, and it can carry very, very far in the mid game with just some help. You are going to want like some Moab damage because it isn't the best with Moabs. Like a fortified Moab will easily be able to tank through a good amount of it, but a lot of Bloons on the inside will do very, very well and destroy absolutely everything. So I have Sada, and then I'll get that Sentry Expert up there at the top, and we'll see how much it can save into. I'll get just like villages and all to be safe. Now the thing for spike balls, with one of them I wouldn't do a drums, but if you have two, you could do it. So let's take a look at this example. I just have a random example here on Castle Revenge, and you can get like 2 spike balls at the end, or what I recommend doing, if you have a setup like this, you can do something like this on Mesa 2. Get a 202 village in there, you'll discount them, save some money. You can get drums on 2 of them, it's super nice and effective, and you can get 2 spike balls with the alch buff, and it's really nice. So you can do kind of something like that on multi-lane maps. And then another thing to note is that when it comes to dealing with Moabs, the spike balls is not good. One Moab will easily be able to push through a lot, but if you pair it with something like a Druid of the Storm, it will be very, very effective actually. The Druid of the Storm will be able to push Bloons back, so it won't chew through all of the RBE, which will put a lot of pressure off the spike balls. And if a Moab gets there, it will be able to push the ceramics back from inside the Moab instantly, which will do a lot. So basically you can do something like that to make these spike balls more effective or get more of them. Kind of same thing applies with spike mines, as you'll see later, which will help out for super ceramics in the late game too. But eventually it will be better against super ceramics, which is also really neat. So this thing's really, really strong in the mid and late game. So we'll get that. I'm just going to cruise through the save up, and we're going to go to round 80. See, I can easily afford and like stop and afford the Sentry Expert or Sentry Champion, but you'll see that it is quite strong, and you can do some very crazy save ups with just like a little bit of extra Moab damage. I'll be using my Sada abilities here because it looks like it got a bit close, but easy $60,000. You could get like most anything with that. You just straight up afford a full-on what is that, like Moab domination if you want. So we're gonna get that. I'm then gonna get Center Champion, and buy the other stuff I need. I'm gonna get CTA because it's gonna be really good, and just like some supports like the smoke glue up there at the top. And then on top of that, later I'm going to just get a Druid of the Storm, just a tier 3. I accidentally buy tier 4 in that case. The tier 4 doesn't really do necessarily a whole much more, so just the tier 3 is good. And then if there's just like some random ceramics, maybe like a few random Moabs that slip by, the spike mines is going to be able to clean all of that up, which is really, really nice and really effective. So it's some great insurance. You can also just straight up buy spike mines in the mid game. I've done that a few times. It's not like necessarily the greatest thing to do, especially like if you're building your strategy. It's more smart to get it in the mid game, so then it would be helping in the early game, helping in the late game, and you kind of just have a more concise, easier build strategy. It's simpler, but it's an option if you need something to deal with just like a bunch of ceramics. You could get spike mines with the alch buff, a village, and then a Druid of the Storm in the back. So we'll get that right there. Actually bought the tier 4, but the tier 3 is really all you need, and that's just going to be really effective back there. Then I'm just going to focus back up at the top and kind of work on taking everything out. We aren't really going to need necessarily a whole lot of cleanup, so we can kind of shift more towards like taking out the ZOMGs and stuff, because we have some cleanup with the late game there. I'm going to grab just like an embrittlement overclock for Sada, which is actually a pretty interesting thing, but it worked out pretty well. And just like a first strike for round 100, and the strategy is going to be a lot easier, very chill, very simple, because of the spike mines. So this will work with a whole bunch of everything. Very general tower. Generally it's just going to be best with towers that aren't the greatest with cleanup, because you're going to be able to use that in the mid game to be able to save up for that tower, and then it will help with the cleanup. So it's like a really good deal, and kind of no money is wasted in towers in the mid game that just will fall off in the late game, because it's going to be doing really well. And it's just a strong tower in general, just a really strong tower. So really awesome. This video is kind of a little more simple because there's not like another tier 5 and a whole other aspect to talk about, but it's just really awesome. So it's a nice tower.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!